The #1 trend on Twitter in Canada right now is hashtag Trudeau must go. And I must admit, guys, when I first saw this hashtag, I was like, oh, great. This is just going to play into the whole, here comes the new boss, same as the old boss, the controlled opposition just playing into the false left-right paradigm. But no, that's not what this is actually about. This is actually about taking back the narrative that we, the unvaccinated, and those involved in the freedom movement here in Canada are somehow a part of a fringe element of society, and we're misogynists and racists. And so here we have this hashtag going viral, and it's people taking back that narrative, and it's such a beautiful thing. Here's a few examples. I'm a 34-year-old Jamaican-born Canadian engineer, project manager. I'm a husband and a father of 2 boys. Because I made a different medical choice, Trudeau says I'm an ideologically motivated extremist and racist. Trudeau must go. Or this one, I'm a retired combat engineer and explosive ordnance disposal operator and recipient of the Sacrifice Medal for my service in Afghanistan. A small fitness business owner and licensed firearm owner, Justin Trudeau thinks I'm a problem and I hold unacceptable views. And it just goes on and on. Here's Maxime Bernier. I'm 59, married to Catherine with 2 daughters from a previous marriage. I worked 19 years in finance and insurance and 16 in politics to maximize freedom and prosperity, including 6 as a minister. My government thinks I'm now a dangerous extremist. And it just goes on and on. Just normal, everyday, average people who are obviously not misogynist, racist, fringe element people. Meanwhile, here you have, Trudeau saying that anger and disinformation fueling Canadian conservatives is what's fueling Canadian conservatives after Poilievre win. Trudeau said he believed that there has been a rise of various forms of populism based on anger and misinformation and disinformation all around the world in many democracies. Well, Trudeau, maybe you should be asking the question, what are they angry about? Why are people so angry with you? Well, maybe it's because you sold Canadians out to the World Economic Forum and the Chinese and the likes of George Soros. That's what's going on here, Justin Trudeau, and that's why Trudeau must go is trending right now in Canada, guys. So we're going to cover all of that and much, much more in this video. But really quickly, if you do appreciate my efforts to bring you this info, I'd ask that you check me out right here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Here you can do PayPal by clicking there. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. You can join me on Subscribestar by clicking on that banner there. It's a really good Patreon alternative. I have been kicked off of Patreon. Here's another Patreon alternative where you can sign up for a monthly reoccurring contribution. You can also send an e-transfer to dan@pressfortruth.ca. Or if you're like me and you like to keep things old school, you can send cash or checks or equipment or simply just words of encouragement as well to my P.O. box, guys. Links for all of that stuff is located in the description below. Thank you so much to anybody who does contribute to my efforts. All right, let's start with this crazy story. Here's somebody who really should be getting involved with this Trudeau must go hashtag that's taking back the narrative. Ottawa cop faces misconduct charge for allegedly donating to the, quote, Freedom Convoy. Notice how they also always put that in quotations. It's ridiculous, and it's all across the board for the MSM. An Ottawa police officer accused of donating money to the Freedom Convoy has been charged with misconduct. Christina Nielsen, a constable, appeared for a brief disciplinary hearing on Thursday. She's being charged with 1 count of discreditable conduct, and she did not submit a plea. OPS Professional Standard investigators allege Nielsen donated money to the Freedom Convoy Fund on GiveSendGo, a Christian crowdfunding website. Oh no, how dare an Ottawa police officer contribute to a legitimate Canadian protest. Nothing wrong with that. But they say Nielsen is alleged to have donated the money on February 5th, 2022, as the Freedom Convoy trucks were stationed throughout the downtown core and police were already facing pushback for failing to remove them. The charges against Nielsen, detailed in a notice of hearing, contend that she knew or reasonably ought to have known that the money was being raised for the illegal occupation known as the Freedom Convoy. Wait a minute. There is nothing illegal about what happened there in Ottawa, except for maybe the invocation of the Emergencies Act. I mean, that's something that is still highly being debated about the evidence that was presented for them to say that, illegal activity was taking place, therefore the Emergencies Act had to be invoked, therefore the entire thing had to be shut down. All of that is actually in question today. But here they are still in the Toronto Sun claiming that it was an, quote, illegal occupation. And this cop is apparently going to be reprimanded for this or dealt with. Nelson acted in a disorderly manner or in a manner prejudicial to discipline or likely to bring discredit upon the reputation of the Ottawa police. No, you know what brought discredit upon the police? Was when they cracked down on this legitimate movement, this protest, the biggest Ottawa has ever seen. Ended up, cracking me in the ribs with a baton right in the side. I'm still feeling the pain from that rib injury. That's whose reputation is discredited because of their own actions, not because of the so-called Freedom Convoy. So anyways, here they say they're going to serve her with a notice of increased penalty, notifying her that if misconduct is proven, clear and convincing evidence, the service may seek penalties or dismissal or even demotion. And, I hope that this individual joins in on this particular, hashtag movement here, which is saying, look, I'm just a normal person who has problems. I'm not an extremist. Like this lady here, I'm a 70-year-old Canadian. I'm retired. I love to paint. Formal liberal. I'm fighting mandates and ArriveCAN because I want a better future for my grandkids. According to Trudeau, I'm an extremist that needs to be dealt with. Trudeau must go. Or this lady, I'm an educated and independent woman running to be Premier of Alberta. But because I believe no Canadian should be discriminated against for refusing a COVID vaccine, according to Justin Trudeau, I'm a misogynist with unacceptable views that must be dealt with. And again, number one trend. It's absolutely awesome that Canadians are taking back the narrative. What's this one? I'm 30-year-old Portuguese Canadian. I'm a wife, mother to 3 children. I've worked for the same big corporation for 8 years. My husband and I are planning on moving our family out of Canada because Justin Trudeau thinks I'm a racist who needs to be dealt with. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. I decided to chime in on the on the hashtag. So I said, I'm an entrepreneur, a documentary filmmaker, investigative journalist, dedicated to pursuing the truth, and I had to drive for 5 days across Canada to cover the Freedom Convoy because I'm unvaccinated. But according to Trudeau, I'm an extremist who needs to be dealt with. Hashtag Trudeau must go. Oh, wow, all right. It's already getting a lot of tweets and likes and retweets. That's cool. So, I mean, as I said, when I first saw the hashtag Trudeau must go, I was like, oh, great, in with the new, same as the old. But to my delight, that wasn't the case. This is Canadians who are taking back the narrative. 38-year-old, happy father. I run a law firm that serves low-income individuals and victims of domestic abuse. Justin Trudeau thinks I'm an extremist because I decided I didn't need a COVID vaccine. Normal, everyday, average people. In fact, everybody I know who did take the COVID 1984 vaccine did it out of coercion. They didn't do it because they thought it was going to be beneficial for their health or that they were afraid of contracting COVID-19 and dying from it, something that has a 99.9% recovery rate. No, they did it because they were coerced into it by the likes of this guy right here. So look at this lengthy bio that he has on the World Economic Forum that they've done up for him. Let's just look at it briefly. Trudeau, born on Christmas Day, Canada's 23rd Prime Minister. Trudeau's vision of Canada is a country where everyone has a real and fair chance to succeed. You know what's funny is how he first started out this real and fair chance idea was in 2015 when he first got selected, he introduced 50% of his cabinet being men and 50% women just because simply it's the current year, he said, when asked. Why did you do that? He says, because it's 2015. Time to get with the times, Not because they're qualified for the job, but because the man's a social justice warrior and a feminist, really. is what it amounts to. But let's continue. His experiences as a teacher, drama teacher, father, leader, and advocate for youth has shaped his dedication to Canadians. It's interesting that they mention he's a father and an advocate for youth. Meanwhile, this is the same man who takes his young children to the Pride parades. Prime Minister Trudeau brings his children to Pride. I actually confronted him about that to his face. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But anyways, let's continue. So that's how he's shaping the youth for his dedication to Canadians and his commitment to make Canada a place where everyone has the opportunities they need to survive. The oldest of 3 boys, I don't know if you guys knew, he has a couple of brothers, and I was the first one to interview Justin Trudeau's brother way back in 2020 in this exclusive. Justin Trudeau's brother exposes the COVID 1984 global corporatocracy. And this was huge back then to have Trudeau's brother speaking out about what his brother is doing. Again, if you haven't seen that one, guys, check it out. But anyways, Trudeau grew up with a profound influence from his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and his mother, Margaret Trudeau. Now, I'm sure most viewers of this channel have probably already heard about the conspiracy that Justin Trudeau is allegedly the son of Fidel Castro. I'm sure this is not the first time you're hearing this, and you know, I'm not saying whether it's true or it's not, but it is interesting when you look at some of the photos comparing the young Trudeau at the same ages to Castro, and boy oh boy, is there a lot of very, very striking similarities. And again, I'm not saying this is true or whether it isn't, but interesting when you compare the photos to Pierre and what they look like at the same ages. And gosh, I mean, it sure does look like he looks a heck of a lot more like Castro than he does Pierre. But at any rate, as I said, this is not, something that I'm saying is true or isn't. I really don't know. I suppose a DNA test would be required at some point, but it is interesting that his mother, Margaret, is that her name? Yeah, Margaret Trudeau, was known to be a bit of a floozy. I mean, she slept around. She apparently was sleeping around with, like, the Rolling Stones, famously, for example. And apparently she was in Cuba during the time that Trudeau was conceived. Again, not saying this is true or isn't, just something interesting. I'm sure, once again, you guys are already well aware of this, but interesting nonetheless. Let's go on a little bit. He was raised speaking both French and English, and his family's roots are in Eastern and Western Canada, and this background helped spark his passion for public service and shaped his conviction that diversity is Canada's strength. That ended up being one of the biggest blunders that he's ever said, but this is interesting. He studied literature at McGill University, graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in 1994. That's what gave him the ability to be a drama teacher. Wow, but interestingly enough, he studied at McGill University in Montreal. Did you guys know that that is the same McGill University that is the place of controversy surrounding the MK Ultra experiments? If you guys are not familiar with this, please watch my expose that I did way back in 2012 here, MK Ultra and the Canadian Connection, where they were doing crazy experiments. The Canadian government has a dark history because of their involvement in the MK Ultra experiments at McGill University in Montreal. The CIA teamed up with Dr. Ewan Cameron, president of the Canadian, American, and World Psychiatric Association, to conduct illegal and immoral experiments on the human mind. This isn't some conspiracy theory, guys. In fact, MK Ultra victims ended up receiving compensation from Ottawa, because this also took place by Dr. Cameron at Montreal's Allen Memorial Institute. And, victims were paid out upwards of $100,000 in exchange for dropping the legal action that they launched. So, yes, victims were being compensated. So this isn't some kind of, conspiracy theory. This is legit. Just like the, Trudeau tries to claim that, those of us who are unvaccinated are just a small fringe element of society who are racist and misogynist, that in itself is a crazy conspiracy theory, and that's why I'm so glad to see all these people chiming in today. Here's another one. 34-year-old Canadian mom, healthcare worker, ex-military spouse, dedicated my life to the care of others and my children. I enjoy my making soap and spending time with my family. According to Trudeau, I'm an extremist who needs to be dealt with. Again, on and on and on. Regular, everyday, average people who are not misogynists, who are not racist. We are not part of a fringe element of society, ladies and gentlemen. And if you fall into the camp of having refused to go along with the forced medical inoculation in this global vaccine program, congratulations. Welcome to the side who have done their due diligence and, you know, understood the inherent dangers that were involved with this. And I know a lot of people who have taken the vaccine are looking back saying, man, you guys were right. Gosh, I wish you hadn't have done that. I know people who are more worried now about dropping dead from receiving the vaccine than they are from actually contracting COVID-19 84 and having any kind of issue from that. Again, this all comes at the hands of this, you could call him a dictator, who pushed this medical tyranny on the Canadian people. So really, really cool to see everybody speaking out. Really glad to see that this hashtag Trudeau must go isn't playing into the false left-right paradigm and, you know, propping up the controlled opposition, but is rather just explaining to the world that we're just regular, everyday, average people, not a fringe element of society, not misogynist, not racist, and we deserve to be heard. If you agree, guys, please share this video. Click that thumbs up button. Let's share this around. We know that the algorithms, especially on YouTube in particular, are designed to stop this information from being seen. So with your help, we can help spread this info to the people who need to see it the most. And again, if you do appreciate my efforts to bring you all this info, don't forget to check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Once again, links are all located in the description below. Whether you happen to be watching this on BitChute or Odyssey or Minds or Bastion or YouTube, if you just click in the description where it says more, you'll see all the sources for all the information I covered here today, and also to where you can support me at pressfortruth.ca/donate. And that's all for today, guys. I want to thank you once again for tuning in. Stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming very soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.